Coming up on this Friday edition of Daybreak, Korea's spy agency embroiled in an election scandal lays out measures to prevent its agents from intervening in politics. The ruling and opposition parties react differently. Korea signs a landmark deal with Iraq to export 24 T-50 IQ light attackers before 2017. The $2 billion agreement is Korea's biggest defense export deal to date. Plus, as a delegation from Ukraine leaves for Brussels to resume discussions on a free trade deal with the EU, Russian President Vladimir Putin tries to entice the ex-Soviet nation to strengthen its economic ties with Moscow. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Friday, December 13th. I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul. Let's start this morning at the National Assembly, where the state spy agency on Thursday presented a set of self-reform measures aimed at stopping agents from getting involved in political affairs. The rival parties, however, gave differing responses. Our Kim Hyun-ji has the details.
National Intelligence Service Chief Nam Jae-jun on Thursday presented his agency's plan to reform itself to lawmakers. The spy agency stands accused of launching an online smear campaign targeting opposition candidates in the run-up to last year's presidential election. The reform proposal submitted by the NIS would scrap a system that gives NIS agents unbridled access to the National Assembly, political parties, and media outlets. The plan also includes setting up a center that will handle employee complaints of unjust or inappropriate orders from superiors that could force them to intervene in politics. Whether the complaints are legitimate would be determined by a special panel that would be led by 2 prosecutors dispatched from outside the agency. Under the plan, all NIS agents and new recruits would be required to take an oath to not intervene in politics during their tenure. The proposal also calls for the establishment of codes that clearly define the scope of its psychological warfare campaign against North Korea. The ruling party has given out a rather positive review of the spy agency's proposal, saying that it presents a clear guideline to keep agents from intervening in politics.
The reform proposal shows the spy agency's endeavors to overhaul itself. My party will work with the opposition party to complement that proposal.
However, the main opposition party criticized the plan, saying that it does not discuss core issues, such as toughening the parliament's control over the agency's budget.
The NIS chief said no intelligence agencies of advanced nations disclose their budgets, but my party lawmakers don't believe that's correct. We need to fact-check and further discuss the issue.
Next week, the committee will hold public hearings to gather experts' views on how to reform the spy agency. And then it will start deliberations on how the NIS law and the law on public officials should be revised in order to carry out the necessary reforms. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
Over at the presidential office, President Park Geun-hye will not pardon anyone during the upcoming holiday season. Senior presidential press secretary Lee Jung-hyun told reporters on Thursday that he has not heard of any plans for special presidential pardons. In line with her commitment to bring a fair society, President Park had not given out any pardons to mark Liberation Day earlier this year. While Korean presidents have often issued pardons to commemorate national holidays in the past, Park promised during last year's presidential election campaign that she would exercise the right in strict manner. The Korean government has sealed a record-breaking export agreement worth more than $2 billion with Iraq. The aircraft maker will send 24 supersonic light fighter jets, making inroads into the arms market in the Middle East. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Hyundai has more.
Korea Aerospace Industries signed a landmark export contract with Iraq on Thursday. The aerospace agency will provide 24 units of the T-50IQ multi-role light attack aircraft to the Middle Eastern country by 2017 for $1.1 billion. The package deal includes pilot training and other operational support, making the total value of the deal worth more than $2 billion. It's the most expensive single defense export deal Korea has ever seen. The T-50IQ, built by Korea Aerospace Industries, is a supersonic light fighter that can also be used as an advanced trainer jet. With an engine output of more than 8,000 kilograms and a top speed of Mach 1.5, it can load more than 4,500 kilograms of armed gear. The biggest strengths of the T-50IQ, officials say, is that it's one of the world's most advanced trainers, suitable for fifth-generation fighter jets. Plus, it can carry the latest weapons, such as AIM-9 air-to-air missiles, AGM-65 air-to-surface missiles, and JDAM guided bombs. Kai officials say there is rising global demand for light fighters to replace aging fighter jets, and that the T-50 is emerging as an attractive option because of its competitive price range. Officials aim to sell more than 1,000 units, with a target to increase its global market share to up to 30%. One unit of the T-50 has the same economic effect as selling 1,000 units of mid-sized automobiles. The contract with Iraq has shed a new light on Korea's defense industry, demonstrating a potential to become a new growth engine for the nation. 한다은 아리랑 뉴스.
The interim prime minister of the Syrian National Coalition, the leading opposition group in Syria, claims North Korea may be supplying military aid and even personnel to the government of Bashar al-Assad. In an interview with the Seoul-based Yonhap news agency on Thursday, Ahmad Tomei said there were lots of speculation, but he had not actually seen for himself that Pyongyang was providing military aid to the Syrian government. Tomei said he presumed Russian or North Korean airmen might be directly involved, as the precision of the government's bombing raids on rebel positions has improved significantly over the past few months. The assumption comes as Russia and North Korea use the same weapons and bombers. And here's the latest on the relocation of government ministries and agencies to South Korea's new administrative city of Sejong. The second phase of the movement begins on this Friday, and our Park Ji-won tells us how the process is coming along.
The Korean government's relocation to the multifunctional administrative city of Sejong enters its second phase starting this Friday. Over the next 2 weeks, 16 government ministries and sub-agencies will move to Korea's new complex in Sejong, some 120 kilometers south of Seoul. The agencies relocating during the second phase include the Education, Culture and Trade ministries and their sub-organizations. They are scheduled to complete their moves by the end of December. 14 other ministries, state agencies and their sub-organizations, such as the Prime Minister's Office and the Finance and Environment Ministries, already moved to Sejong late last year.
When the second phase of the government relocation plan is completed at the end of the month, there will be some 10,000 public officials working at this government complex in Sejong.
The administrative center, located a 2-hour drive away from Seoul, aims to lessen the focus on the nation's capital and to achieve balanced regional development. Despite the controversy about increased inefficiency within the government, the administrative city was launched with the passing of 2 related special acts at the National Assembly in 2010. The city is now bustling with constant construction to build apartments, schools, hospitals, and other facilities for the incoming population. And the city's first state cultural institution, the National Library of Korea, Sejong, opened on Thursday afternoon. The library is not only Korea's first specializing in government policy archives and related documents. It is also expected to offer an important cultural venue for the citizens of this newly blossoming city. Park Ji-won, Arirang News, Sejong.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world,
Return to the negotiation.
President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
The legislature will convene a...
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday the Korean government wants to help millions of part-time workers in the nation by making sure they're fairly paid and have the right to work flexible schedules. The government hopes its plans will help boost the employment rate. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Nam So-yeon is back at work after having left her job 5 years ago to focus on raising her 2 children. She is a counselor at a call center and also works at a local consulting company. She says that she only has to work for 4 hours a day, which makes it easier for her to balance work and family life.
I'm making the most of the hours when my children are in daycare.
Nam is one of the 2 million Korean women who have been given up full-time jobs to take care of their family. She's now been hired as a time-selective employee on a permanent contract and is entitled to the same wages and benefits as her salaried counterparts, but workers like Nam work for just 4 to 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, which is just about half the time of most full-time employees who put in more than 9 hours a day. The rate of pay that time-selective employees receive is higher than that of ordinary part-time workers, since it's proportional to what they would make if they were on a full-time contract. The Ministry of Employment and Labor says the plan will bring flexibility to the labor market and says the government will increase the number of time-selected positions to 930,000 to boost the nation's employment from its current 64% to 70% by 2017. But not everyone is on board with the plan. In the case of prospective workers in their 20s who just graduated from college but don't have any children, this may not be the best solution for them.
I understand that this plan may be helpful for mothers trying to get back to work, but for me, I'm afraid it would only lead to a deterioration in the quality of jobs.
I doubt this plan would help me find a good job. The government needs to come up with something that is more sustainable.
Experts view the plan as a positive step toward compensating existing part-time workers that are paid less than their full-time counterparts. But they argue the government needs to do more to solidify the plan for a longer period of time, such as instituting punitive measures for when companies don't pay employees the amounts they promised. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics has suffered a legal setback on its home turf. A Seoul court has ruled in favor of Apple, saying the American firm did not violate 3 of Samsung's patents. The Seoul Central District Court on Thursday ruled that Apple did not infringe on a Samsung patent related to text messaging and added that Samsung's other 2 patents lacked originality. Samsung says it will appeal. But in a separate patent case on Wednesday in Germany, Samsung scored a victory. The court ruled the Korean company did not violate one of Apple's multi-language function patents. Natural disasters in recent years have left countries like the Philippines and Japan scrambling for energy sources. Now, a new project launched by Korea's Hyundai Heavy Industries and 2 local energy companies could deliver energy to the most remote places in times of need. Yurian explains.
Hyundai Heavy Industries, the world's biggest shipbuilder, has embarked on a project that could provide a quick solution for natural disaster-stricken areas suffering from power outages. Hyundai, along with Siemens Energy Solutions and 2 local companies, signed an MOU this week to start building what's called a mobile power ship by 2017. It is essentially a floating power plant that could both deliver and produce energy where it's needed. These power-generating ships store and burn liquefied natural gas, one of the fastest-growing sources of energy, to generate electricity of up to 880 megawatts. That's equivalent to the capacity of a nuclear power plant and enough to support 1 million users. Apart from providing relief to areas hit by earthquakes or other natural disasters, it could also serve as a solution to Korea's power shortage problem. Last winter, the government considered borrowing a power ship from Turkey when high energy use in the country sparked concerns about a possible power shortage. Turkey had developed similar power ships back in 2010 to reduce the damage from earthquakes that frequently strike the country. Now, depending on the new ship's performance, the shipbuilders say they could also be exported to countries like the Philippines and Indonesia, where chronic power shortages are rising as a serious concern. Yurian, Arirang News.
A new report has ranked Korea among the top 4 countries in the world in the areas of math, reading, and science. The comprehensive education survey shows an upward trend for Korean students over the last 3 years. Paul Lee reports.
The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development announced the results of its global academic survey this past week. The Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA, surveyed more than 500,000 15-year-old students from 65 different countries in 2012. Korea's performance among the 34 member states of the OECD placed it at the top of the list. In the subject area of mathematics, Korea ranked first and also ranked a second in reading. It's the 3rd consecutive time that Korea has earned top marks in math and reading in the education survey that takes place every 3 years. The rankings are based on a 2-hour exam, which was administered to 5,200 Korean students in 150 schools nationwide. Average scores in math increased by 8 points from 2009, representing the highest result among OECD members, with Japan scoring 536 and the United States 481. When comparing student performance across all surveyed countries, Korea was still able to break into the top 5. Meanwhile, students in China, Singapore, and Hong Kong posted the highest overall scores in math, reading, and science. The OECD assessment also saw that boys outperformed their female counterparts in mathematics, while girls beat out boys in reading skills. However, this gender gap in Korean classrooms has been steadily shrinking over the last 10 years. Other trends that were highlighted for Korea include a growing percentage of students who overcome social disadvantages to perform well in math, and a more balanced performance of students across different socioeconomic backgrounds. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
The European Union's top foreign policy official says Ukraine still intends to sign an association pact with the EU. Catherine Ashton says Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych assured her on Wednesday that he wants to seal a deal which will allow closer ties with the EU. Ukraine has been in turmoil for weeks after Yanukovych decided to postpone a free trade agreement with the EU in favor of closer economic ties with Moscow. A delegation from Kiev has left for Brussels to resume talks with the EU. In Moscow Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin said the door was always open for Ukraine to integrate its economy more closely with Russia. Putin has been trying for years to persuade Ukraine to join a Moscow-led customs union whose membership so far includes Russia, Kazakhstan, and Belarus. The Kremlin hopes the free trade zone could eventually rival the EU in its scope and economic power.
And TGI Friday, everyone, as we kick things off with the South Korean national football team. Now on Thursday, manager Hong Myung-bo returned to Korea from his visit to Brazil and held a short press conference. And when asked about the recent World Cup draw, manager Hong Myung-bo stated that he doesn't care who they're facing off against and will prepare the team like he would against any other team in the tournament. At the same time, he feels that the team is currently 70% ready for the World Cup and still needs a lot of work. Meanwhile, manager Hong added that he plans to add a foreign coach to the staff, but did not reveal who he has in mind just yet. And staying with football, but over on the women's side, where after much speculation, 22-year-old Hoyan is close to a deal that will make her the first Korean female footballer to head over to England. The South Korean international, who currently plays over in Japan, will be signing with Chelsea Ladies FC, as sources say that the signing will come as early as at the end of the month, or, of course, early January. Now, nicknamed G Messi after Argentinian superstar Lionel Messi, she scored 26 goals and 55 international matches so far, and helped Inag Kobe win back-to-back titles since joining the team. And shifting over to baseball, where Gwangju Dongsung High School faced off against Seongnam High School during the finals of the 2013 High School Alumni Tournament. And after cruising through 7-3, Gwangju Dongsung High takes the crown this year, with all the prize money being donated to all the schools. Of course, moving to some Thursday night's KBL action, Anyang KGC continues to struggle this season after losing to Jeonju KCC Aegis 71-64 to remain dead last in the league. Meanwhile, repeat of last year's championship matchup here, Seoul SK Knights taking on the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus. So let's take a look at the highlights. Now, going into the game here, first quarter of the game, a relatively low-scoring game from the start, as Mobis takes a slim 15-13 lead before going into halftime with a 31-29 lead thanks to Moon Tae-young's 11 points in the first half. On the second half of the game, SK rallies back to take a 2-point lead going into the fourth quarter before Courtney Sims and Park Sang-ho combining for 24 points in the fourth, as SK dominates Mobis 75-60, your final score. And finishing things off with some Thursday night's VLeague action, IBK Altos beat Hungok Insurance Life Pink Spiders 3-0 over on the women's side as they remain in first place. Meanwhile, a big matchup over on the men's side as Hyundai Capital Skywalkers took on the Korean Air Jumbos. Now, going into the game here, first set, Liberman Algamez shaky with the serve receive, but still manages to put up 8 points to help Hyundai Capital take the first set 25-20. Second set, Korean Air answers back with 25-22 set win to level the match 1-1. Liberman Algamez continues to struggle defensively as he makes 13 errors on the night, but answers back with 33 attack points as Hyundai Capital takes the next two sets 25-21, 25-19 as they beat Korean Air 3-1. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great weekend, everyone, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Happy Friday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, heavy snow advisory was in place in Seoul yesterday afternoon with total of 5.7 centimeters of snow piled up. And today should be a freezed Friday as we can expect to wake up to the coldest day of the season, especially in the Seoul metro area, which will see a low of -7 in the morning. And temperatures will stay in the negative side throughout the day. But skies will be staying mostly sunny, but some of the regions down south might receive snowfall during the daytime, so you might want to pay a special attention to the future weather forecast if you're down south. And the wet roads from last night might have turned into icy patches this morning, so please drive with extra caution. And it looks like bitter cold condition is expected to last through the weekend, so if you're not so much of a winter lover, you might want to go for shopping or staying indoor this weekend. And the best advice from experts to stay warm is to layer up and cover your head and hands. With that in mind, here are the readings for today. Well, morning low in Seoul is starting off at -7, and the afternoon highs in Seoul will only peak to -2, while Daegu and Gwangju will climb into 2 and 3 respectively, and Busan will see a high of 5 under lots of sunshine. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will soar to 8 in the afternoon. Daejeon will top out at -1 with a chance of rain and sleet, while freezing days in store for Mount Kumgang today. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all from me at this hour, and I hope you have a wonderful Friday.
Very thankful to be here from Hamburg.
Well, we're getting reports now that the uncle of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Chang Song-taek, who was reported to have been ousted recently, was sentenced to execution. We don't have much detail as of now, but we'll bring you more once we get some in. Thank you for joining us, and those are the stories we have for you at this hour.